What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. We are cranking out some of these Detachment Declassified videos for y'all. We are next going to cover Adeptus Custodes, and we have our own resident Phil to really just kind of go over everything that this new spice is really coming with, and we're gonna break it down for you right here. Phil, what are your initial thoughts seeing this new detachment?
I have never been more excited for a Custodes detachment than I am right now. It seems so much fun to play. It makes all the things that we already enjoy playing and using even better. Like, it's got tools upon tools upon tools, and like there's probably only one thing that I wish was in this detachment that we don't have access to, and I will find a way around it. So, the rule for Lions of the Emperor is against all odds. Each time an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicles, makes an attack, if there are no other friendly units within 6 of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. Holy cow, is that good. Now, being 6 inches away means you have to plan. You have to use a couple of those brain cells to like really focus in on how far you're going to be away. You're going to line everything up. I have a 6-inch gauge. I'm going to be working that thing to death because I'm going to make sure that everything that I'm doing, especially after pile-ins and consolidates and charges, that I am avoiding being within 6 of any more of my allied units. So super important, super critical, but to get access to +1 to wound for that army, for that entire army, we will do it.
Yeah. I would say that's about the extent of how far your brain needs to make it in this detachment. Everything else is just so good and so straightforward. You just do this and you just turn your brain off the rest of the damn game. It seems pretty straightforward and just very solid, very good. You know, that's all you got to do. You just, I measured how far I am away from you. I can hit you. I measured how far away I am from myself. I hit you better. That's it. The rest of this just plays itself. Enhancements, great. Stratagems, great. And we're about to get into it a little more. We'll start off with the enhancements. First off, we have Superior Creation. Adeptus Custodes infantry model only. The first time the bear is destroyed, roll a d6 at the end of the phase. On a 2-up, set the bearer back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and not within engagement range of enemy units with full wounds remaining. You feel like that's pretty good, Phil? You like that one? Seem like a strong
I do
start?
like that one. I like it real good because on my Shield Captain and Alaris Terminator Armor or my Blade Champion, they would love to stand back up with full wounds. You just did a bunch of work to try to kill him. Oh, that sucks. I just did reduce all damage down to 1, and they stand back up and do it again. That sucks. So good.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, and if we had a tier for enhancements, this would be in the Frank's Red Hot category, because you put this shit on everything. If you do not take this in this detachment, I don't know what you're doing, because it is so good, so strong. There's so many stand-up on death enhancements that are like kind of sprinkled throughout the game, and none of them are remotely this strong. You're not using it on things that get 6 to 7 wounds back, right? It's not on a 2-up. Like, it's great. So great.
I love it. Well, the next one is
good old Custodes, man.
I would say even better. It's Presidius. Adeptus Custodes model only. The bearer has the lone op and stealth ability. Now you may be asking to yourself, how does this Blade Champion right here, how is he sneaky with his shiny golden armor, running around, being lone opt, being stealth? I don't have an answer for that question, but I do have an answer for the fact that this is finding its way into my army. I'm making a Shield Captain, or a Bike Captain, or a Blade Champion. Like, probably not a Blade Champion, but I'm making the other two definitely lone op and stealth, because they are just incredibly crazy. It's so crazy to think that I could have a Lars Terminator who's lone op and stealth sitting on an objective and just being like, well, you could charge me, but I'm still a Terminator, a Custodes Terminator, in close combat.
Yeah, very, very strong, very spicy. And you know what? If all else fails, you still just do the same thing. They got within range? Sure, I'll turn on my damage reduction, and you can kill me then, or try, I guess, at least. Oh, man. So we're 2 for 2 on enhancements. We'll keep on going. We'll just keep getting into more of this damn spice that's in here. Fierce Conqueror. Shield Captain model only. At the start of the fight phase until the end of the phase, add 2 attacks add 2 to the attacks characteristic of a melee weapon equipped by the bearer for every 5 enemy models that are within 6 inches of the bearer, rounding down. Blast weapons for melee, you can't complain.
Well, who would have thought that 2 more attacks, that doesn't sound like a lot. It's good. It's okay. But when you convert with almost 100% efficiency, with hitting on 2s, wounded on 2s, potential rerolls one way or another, right? Like, that's really good. It is crazy efficiency that I could just get 4 more attacks, and then if I have sustained, right, I could even get more on top of that, right? With the kata, which we still have access to in combat. It is really solid. It is really good, which is crazy because this might be the worst for me personally enhancement. The other 3 I almost value more than this one.
Yeah, it's I would say I would agree. I think it's probably the weakest of the options. It's still decent. I think if you are looking to take it, you're going to put it on like maybe a solo bike captain or something, or maybe he has 1 or 2 attached. Something that he can just, some cheap you can go run on clear screens with, and then they'll be able to do that end of the fight phase move and just disappear after they have cleaned the trash out of the way. I think that would be the case I would probably run it in. But there's just too many other good options that I don't think it's one of the ones that you're like, meh, okay, this is like, if you have the purpose, take it. If not, take the other 3. You're going to be doing just fine. And to get into that, we'll go to the last one. Ad Mana Mortis. Shield Captain model only improve the strength characteristic of the melee weapon equipped by 3 and the AP and damage by 1. This, I can see it. I like it.
This every day of the week. Strength by 3, AP and damage increase as well. I'm running this no matter what. This is going on a bike captain. This is going on a shield captain and Terminator armor. Like, I actually might even want to take axes with this, because this bumps my axes up to -2 and damage 4, which feels a whole lot better than previously -1 flat damage 3. So this is awesome. Yeah. This is incredible. This is something I'm definitely finding room for. So out of those 4, I'd be happy with all those 4, but I could only pick 3, and it's probably Ad Mana Mortis, Presidius, and then what's the last one? Superior Creation.
The first one is Superior Creation.
Yeah. So I'm running all 3 of those. Yeah. I will find space for them because they're just so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you make that deal? I'd make that deal. That's a damn good deal. You take all of them. All right. Yeah, some solid enhancements. All right, Phil, start us off. The first of the stratagems we're going to be looking at in this detachment.
Well, Gilded Champion. Any phase just after an Adeptus Custodes character model from your unit from your army has used an ability in the data sheet that states it can only be used once per battle. That Adeptus Custodes character model is the target, and your model can use that once per battle ability 1 additional time during that battle, but not in the same phase. You cannot use the stratagem on the same Adeptus Custodes character model more than once. That's fine. I don't care. That is so good. Because we were talking about it before. Bike captains, their fallback at the end of the shooting phase. That is once per battle. Now I can do it twice. Shield captains in Terminator armor. Reduce damage to 1. That was once per battle. Now I can do it twice. Blade champions. Advance and charge. That was once per battle. Now I can do it twice. And believe it or not, someone who got a little bit of a glow up here is Trajan, because his previous once per battle was either a 2-up invul or make his Watcher's Axe 12 attacks from his base, I believe, is 6. So you double the attacks. Now I get to do that twice, and he ignores mods for his unit. So him attached to a unit of Wardens or something like that feels almost playable, right? Like, you have a unit that now hits hard, incredibly hard just because they're Wardens, +1 to wound, ignore mods, and like it cracks. It's really good. This stratagem is awesome.
Yeah, it is going to be one of the ones you are using very frequently. And, if you have plenty of shield captains around who give you free strats, this might be something that comes up a fair amount for free all the time.
You betcha.
Yeah, very, very solid. We're 101. Great stratagem. We'll see if the second one can keep up. Defiant to the last. In the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its target, one Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that was selected as the target of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, roll a d6. Add 2 to the result if it's a character. On a 4-up, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can attack before it's removed. 4-up, fight on death. 2-up for character. I'd make that deal. 1 CP sounds great.
Well, the crazy thing to think is, let's say you had your shield captain and Terminator armor out there who has the resurrection on a 2-up. So let's say he fights on death on a 2-up. He fights, kills a bunch of stuff, goes down. And then he stands back up outside of engagement range at full wounds after he's just barbecued some stuff and killed it. And now he gets to go off on his merry way, murdering whatever else he wants to murder. Because he is still a Custodes shield captain, and those dudes hit really, really hard.
Yeah. Yep. Another great stratagem. We're 2 for 2. Oh man.
All right.
This thing's gonna slow down at some point, isn't it, Phil? Tell me it's gonna.
It is not. Unfortunately, the Golden Boys are pedal to the metal. The Dark Angels would be jealous of how fast our bikes are moving because we have one goal in mind, which is total domination of the meta, and we are going to get it done. Okay, next one. Peerless Warrior. One Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that has not been selected to the fight. Till the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models in your unit have the precision ability. Now, this doesn't seem that good, that crazy, but I will tell you, there are times where you need precision. You need to pick a character out. You know, the thing that stands out to me is like Green Tide Orcs, where it's like they have the Mega Knob and the Big Mech and the Pain Boy, and you need to get after them before you get into the rest of the unit, right? You have to go kill them because otherwise they are just so tough and so durable, they're just going to make a mess of the rest of the game. So really like this strat. There are so many uses for it, and being able to give the whole unit, it's not crits that give precision, it's just they have precision. So a full squad of Wardens, or maybe your shield captain, or whoever else, this is so good.
Yeah. You know, when you could also just take Epic Challenge and do that with only your character, now you can just say, well, screw that. I'm just going to do it with my entire squad because I really want to make sure I kill you. You know, just being an upgrade of a core stratagem. Who would have thought? Another good one. We were 3 for 3. Woo! All right, going on to number 4. Unleash the Lions. Your command phase, 1 Aloris Custodian or 1 Aquila Custodian unit from your army that is on the battlefield. That unit is split into separate units, each containing 1 model. These new units have a starting strength of 1. So you are combat splitting in the command phase with units that are on the battlefield, not in strategic reserve. It has some use. I can see it.
I think it has some really interesting uses, right? Like you could do it to a squad of 2-man Alaris after they come down and they kind of like split out and do their own thing. I think there's a lot of value because once again, Custodes Terminators are fully capable of doing it on their own. This is very reflective of a strat that we've had before, and it was called Unleash the Lions and allowed us to single man up the Lars Custodes. My favorite unit in my Custodes is my Aquilon Terminators. I have not found a way to get them onto the field competitively. This detachment potentially allows it, and it even has a stratagem that calls those Terminators out. They are painted, they are ready to go, they got a Drathix, and they got Power Fists. Like, they are ready for the business. So, like, I think I don't know if there's some value there. Like, Aquilons, they're still not great, but they do have some interesting skill sets and interesting breakpoints that they go after. So, with +1 to wound, it almost makes everything good. As Space Marine players, like, +1 to wound is pretty nice. And the fact that I could get it across my entire army versus they only get it on 1 to 2 targets, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. All right, the next one.
Yeah.
Next one's Maneuver and Fire. And this one's really straightforward. Adeptus Custodes units from your army, after it falls back, it can fall back, shoot, and charge. This is just good. There's nothing else to say besides it is just good.
Yeah, never have we seen that in a detachment and been like, oh, yeah, whatever. It's great. If you have it, perfect. Because you don't even have to use it half the time. People go, oh, I can't just tie you up. I guess I won't charge. Like it just has the value of just being there, and a lot of the times as Custodes, if people want to come charge you and fight you with just tying you up in mind, like they are a misguided individual to start with, but you know, well, it's whatever. Maybe they just piled in. I don't know, but yeah, it's great to have. Always want that in the back pocket because you never know when you're gonna need a fifth great stratagem in your detachment. Last but not least, swift as the eagle. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot one Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicle units, that was selected as a target of one or more of those attacks, you can make a normal move up to D6 inches.
Love this. I love it. You have, like, let's say a warden on one other side of the wall to go do an action or an objective. They shoot it. Obviously, the amount of shooting that they would have to kill from one singular unit to wipe out a squad of wardens is pretty much impossible. You then do this reactive move. You go on the other side of the wall and you laugh because now your wardens can't get shot anymore, and it is just a joyous day for everyone. It is a good strat. It's great to have, and a little bit extra mobility is never a problem in Custodes. I will take it. I will take every single one of these strats. The only thing, and I said it before, I said there's one thing missing from here. It would be nice to have sticky objectives. I would like that quite a bit, but I can't have everything. I understand that, but I would have loved to have sticky objectives.
Would have been a nice touch, but I don't know what you really drop out of the bombs that are in here. So you know what? Just be happy for your solid ass detachment, Phil, and you can talk to Jimothy Workshop another time about your complaints. But I personally don't want to hear it. This is great. This is a very solid detachment. So let's go ahead and move on to what are some of the combos. We've already mentioned a few of them as we've been working through here. What are some things that you all are thinking are just kind of they're gonna just be in almost every list that people write in this attachment?
Yeah, so the things that stand out to me, just in terms of like most important that you're gonna take, you are still going to take Blade Champs and Wardens. They are still so solid. It does not matter what detachment you put them in. They are just good. They are even better now because they have access to +1 to wound. They are incredible. The Blade Champs being able to advance and charge twice means you can be a lot more aggressive with them because it means you just are going to potentially have another opportunity to do it, right? In terms of actually getting the charge off into another target. So I think you pretty much are always going to take that, no matter what. Now, there's, I think, a lot of flexibility in this detachment. I think shield captains on bikes are really interesting. And I probably am taking the Hurricane Bolters versus the Multi-Melta, depending on the other support that I have. But with their mobility, their access, once again, to +1 to wound and +1 to hit, means that that unit as a whole is extremely lethal. And the fact that, once again, they can fall back at the end of the opponent's shooting phase, if they've fought, means that they can do it twice. They can get up in someone's face. They can heroic. Like, the threat of them heroicing is probably the biggest and scariest thing for your opponent, right? Because you charge into something, they heroic in, they fight, they either murder whatever it is that they touch, right? Because they won't have access to the +1 to wound because they're heroicing in, unless, like, there is a way where your opponent kills whatever they charged into, like sisters or whatever, and then now you can really unload on them because now you have the +1 to hit and +1 to wound, and you just punk whatever it is, and then you get a free normal move, and then you move again, so 24 inches pretty much, and then you can charge. So that is pretty ridiculous in terms of threat range, and your opponent definitely has to be cognizant of it. I think there's a world where you run 2 of those shield captains on bikes with 2 squads of 2 Alaris and just have them run around the field. Like, better not let me catch you, because if I do, I'm gonna kill you. And they're incredibly scary, incredibly scary. You could run a single one of those and make them lone op, and you could just have a single lone bike captain just being like, well, I'm lone op and stealthed, and I'm just gonna keep doing this and keep being a menace, and you can't catch me, right? That's what's gonna happen. You can't catch them. Alar's Terminators are good. I definitely don't think you're running a lot of them, right? You might just run a 2-man with a shield captain, and you might not even have that shield captain attached. But You could unleash the lions when they come down, split them out, let them do a bunch of different tasks. I think that's really solid. I think there's really a lot of value there. How's Grav Tanks? They are still good. They are still our best anti-tank option. And depending on where the meta shakes out, and just in terms of my very rudimentary predictions, you still need long-range shooting. You still kind of got to have it. And you still got to be able to pick up tanks at range. You still got to be able to work through screens and do all of those things. Custodes Grav Tanks are still really good. Could you do it without it? I think so. I think with the combination of bikes, if you took salvo launchers, I think with the amount of access you have to +1 to wound, means you can kind of punch up into a lot of things. I think there is value because you still have access to lethal hits. You still have access to sustain. So you do have the capabilities to punch up. And I'm going to have to do some testing just in terms of like layouts and terrain. And do we still have capabilities to go do that? But I don't know if you have to have Custodes, right? Like, especially competitively, I think there's a world, if built properly, you don't need them, which gives us about 430 points to go build out more Wardens or Custodian Guard or more bikes, which definitely shine in this very infantry-focused detachment.
Yeah, it does seem very interesting. You know, I think there is a lot of flexibility, like you were saying. I think there's going to be some of those staple units, but again, it's very strong core rules that are going to allow you to kind of play whatever different tech pieces you really want to play as far as infantry or mounted units are concerned. They're going to be strong, and in your flexibility to choose what hammers you're really taking and what kind of more scoring pieces. I think it's super flexible, and I can't wait to see what you brew up in your in the forge, we'll say,
Yeah.
while you're crafting.
Well, I got lists going already. I've been working them all day, getting ready for this afternoon for us talking. So there's definitely a lot of value here. We have a plethora of detachments. Talons is good. Solar Spearhead, I think, is still just fine. It is a good detachment. Shield Host is still awesome, but this is really good. Really good.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the other cool thing is like it's always nice to see when a detachment really does kind of feel a little more lorically inclined, and just how tough this is going to make some of those Aloris Terminators and stuff just because of reusing some of their abilities again, and just all of it is super flavorful while also being super strong, and you just have to enjoy that at the end of the day, I think.
It is really good. I would strongly recommend for players that are gonna like pick this up for the first time, just be cognizant of the fact that there are, with those one-time use abilities, like you want a way to mark them and identify them for yours and your opponent's sake, right? Because there's gonna be a lot of times where it's just like, have I used this ability already? Have I not? And you want a good way to identify it. So if it, like I use coins, like challenge coins and stuff like that, gotten from like LVO and stuff like that, and I put them right next to the unit, and that's the way I identify it. So if you're going to do this, I strongly recommend you just give something visual, not just for your sake, right, but for your opponent's sake as well, so they can plan. Because there are some very good abilities that if you can use multiple times, that can be quite scary.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to deal with some of these characters you have. The lone op, gonna be a pain. The stand back up, gonna be a pain. If you decide to take Trajan and you give him a 2-up invuln, potentially twice, that's some Makari level bullshit right there, you know. And it's not it lasts the whole phase. It's not even one and it's done. It's just there for the phase. Like that is a tanky boy right there.
Yeah.
So you know, there's definitely some play, and I'm really excited. I'm curious to try it against go into it myself. I generally feel kind of decent with the amount of damage 3 I have, but whew, man, this has some tricks. It's got some toughness built in with the added stratagems, and oh man, it looks good. I am very, very tempted to bust out my own Custodes and finally get them built, because it does look like a very fun detachment.
Yeah, so one of the other things we've been doing with this detachment to classified is talking about like what you would do if you were going to play into this. So Lane has already said it already. Like damage 3, I value very highly in an army. I think if you don't have access to damage 3, and I'm not just saying like going into 3-wound models, right? But damage 3 as a whole is such a critical part of the game because that is like a huge breakpoint for a lot of units that have -1 damage or feel no pains or stuff like that. That if you don't have access to that, it can stand out. I'm not saying you can't win games without it, but you have to plan a lot more carefully. So, especially blast damage 3 stuff is definitely scary for Custodes. Multiple shooting targets definitely scary for Custodes in terms of being able to put multiple shots into one target. The one thing that we definitely struggle with is trading pieces. But the thing is, this detachment almost solves that issue for us because our trading pieces get better because they are Adeptus Custodes units. So like even my Flamer Witchseekers get better, Prosecutors get better, Vigilators get better, right? Everything gets just that much better with this detachment. But we definitely value our trading pieces really highly. So if you are able to pick up Custodes trade pieces, if you're able to pick up the Sisters early, or punish the Wardens, or even kill 1 or 2 of them, that really hampers their effectiveness and can really cause an issue. Also, stripping cover. Custodes as a whole value cover a lot. If you force my 2-up to a 3-up, right, and you strip my cover, that is huge for that part of the game. And it is definitely impactful for you as a player. So if you have ways to strip cover, we've already looked at a few detachments that do it, either with stratagems or natively. You need to have some way to either have enough AP to put me on invuls, or stripping cover and additional AP that actually forces me to take reasonable saves. Because if I'm on 2-ups all game, or for the majority of your shooting, that is just devastating.
Yeah, it is very important to be able to have good ways to deal with 2-up, 4-up, and that's just one of those things. As a core part of list building, you need to be working on that and making sure you have some in there, or Custodes are going to be a huge problem. And this detachment especially is going to make that even worse.
Yeah, it will make that apparent, right? So another thing that stands out for this detachment is we don't have any way to uppy down, like to go back into Deep Strike besides the so Vedatari can rapid ingress for free. That's good. The Terminators can go back into Deep Strike from Golden Light. That is their data sheet ability, so they can go back into Deep Strike there and then come back down, which is quite interesting because you could potentially pick up the singles after you separate them with the Unleash the Lions. So there is a capability there, but besides those 2 things, our mobility is not high. We have to work pretty hard to score secondaries. So once again, if you're able to kill the scoring units, the action units, and force your opponent to do stuff with Wardens that they would much rather be killing you with, that could be definitely an effective part of the game, and you could do that with good mobility and finding angles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice and some great insight. I mean, is there anything left we need to talk about here on this the last one for us from the day? I think we've pretty much got all of the biscuits and gravy of this detachment. It's all there. It's all tasty, and oh man, Phil's going to be serving it up fresh and hot to any sucker who wants to step up to the table.
Yeah, this is definitely
soon.
S tier. This is going to be in competitive with the best attachments to the game. I genuinely believe it is going to take the skills of a good player, right? Because you could like I said, you could very easily screw yourself and be within 6. You have to be very cognizant of that and have to have a game plan. We've talked about this before. You have to have a game plan from list building. The second you start putting that list together to when you set it down on the table, how are you going to keep these units 6 inches away from each other? How are you going to be effective here? How are you going to do these things, right? Overall throughout a game, and take advantage of that +1 to hit and +1 to wound, more importantly. So as the game progresses, as you do those things, you have to be cognizant of it. But I love those kind of like skill expression armies, and this is skill expression, not like any ad. It's skill expression of just like very structured, like I will be 6 away, I will do these things, and I will be effective on the board, and my units are already good, and I'm just juicing them up to the gills with like Custodes steroids, which I assume are just the most insane level of steroids out there, because they're already good, and now they're on a whole different level.
Yeah, I do think this detachment will rise to the top. It is going to be a menace, as you have been saying all day, to the rest of the 40K scene. And whew, no, you better be prepared to deal with what this is going to be bringing. And best of luck, really.
Can't wait. We'll get a little game in soon, Lane. We'll test it out.
Yeah, I can't wait. It'll be fun. In the meantime, don't forget, we haven't been saying it as much as we should. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out so much. And the other thing you can never forget is that victory isn't given, it's forged. And we thank you all for coming by again. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.